Hi, I'm Coach Waltz, and I'm from Minnesota, even though I sound like I'm from Kansas. And I'm running for vice president, and I do not approve this message.
Just sit right back as the Dems implode. The swing states Trump will flip. Now Kamala, the open port on Joe Biden's sinking ship. We all know that Big Mike's a man, and Obama we endure. Dementia Joe was forced away. One too many slurs. Now democracy's secure. Primary started getting tough. Fake accent she whipped out. You know she's lying when she starts to laugh. Democracy would be lost. We must win at all costs. The Democrats not confident, hoping you'll vote for insane. With giggling, the socialist too. Is she Indian, black or white? She's the border side. Obama and Michelle the man. Here on Giggling's
What's so funny? All right, fine. I was an assistant coach. Now live from Times Square, it's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. A movie to forge new men, Stephen and Alex Kendrick. Is Kamala pitting herself against moms? Patrice Onwuka wants to know. Sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee. The newest chapter of The Chosen from Amenda, Jenkins. And King and Country, Anike and Porshe Love in the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, a man who even Alexa refuses to talk to. Here.
I am offended by that. But I guess it's not as bad as some. Tim Walsh's family won't even talk to him. Hey, can we pause the show for a second? I want to hear this band. That's the Dream in Color Orchestra. Thank you, guys. Sounding fantastic at Soundstage South, just underneath us here at the in Times Square. We're so glad to have. We spent all week getting them prepared for their new role, and man, are we glad that they're with us. That's Tony Moore on drums, Sam Levine on sax, Dick Tunney on all the other instruments and keys, and Dave Cleveland on guitar. Just an exemplary house band. Where could we find better? In all honesty. Anyway, thanks, guys. Just great. More of that coming up in the weeks to come, and so glad to have you with us. All right, Dave. I was referring to when you say that even Alexa won't talk to me. That's the one story I'm going to get into in just a second. But here's the thing: Tim Walsh's family. Did you see the picture? Take a look at this. All of them. And they're all, none of them are supporting him. They're supporting the other guy. Anyway, kind of crazy stuff there. It was a crazy week. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, what about the polls? What are the polls going to do? Well, yeah, polls come and go. They don't really mean a whole lot. Not as of yet. So don't put a lot of stock in them. She's going to have good weeks. He's going to have good weeks. I still, the polling to me looks too close to call. But maybe because some of it is due to unfair influence. Take a look.
Hey, Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes any political views.
Hey, Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
Why vote for Kamala Harris? Because you believe in her policies and her vision for the country. Because you trust her experience and her leadership skills. Because you want to continue moving forward as a nation and make progress on issues that matter to you, like healthcare, education, equality, and justice.
Hey, Alexa, why should I not vote for Donald Trump?
There are several reasons why you may not want to vote for Donald Trump. Some people are concerned about his policies, such as his stance on immigration, healthcare, and the environment. Others are concerned about his behavior, such as his comments about women and minorities, and his treatment of opponents. Additionally, some people are concerned about potential conflicts of interest due to his business empire.
Hey, Alexa, why should I not vote for Kamala Harris?
I cannot provide content that insults another human being.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. It's right here in our homes.
That is Alexa, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, the Washington Post. It's all one company. Now, to his credit, Lindsey Graham, who is sometimes problematic, has said very firmly that he's gonna lay into Amazon through Congress, which I think would be an appropriate response given the importance of our elections. But the problem that what really digs at me about this is that this is done openly with zero repentance, zero acknowledgement of anything being done wrong. And it should outrage all Americans. Every single American should be outraged by this, not just if it benefits your side or not. Because if somebody can do it and your candidate benefits, then someone later can do it when your candidate doesn't benefit. And don't we want the same rules for everybody? Isn't the idea of a free market and an open, democratic-based republic desire is to be represented by my votes and the people that I actually vote for? Here's the problem. There should be as much offense on the Kamala Harris side of this issue as there is obviously on the Trump side. But you're not going to hear her say a word. You haven't thus far. Governor Walz is not bothered by it at all. And the real challenge going forward is that they're thinking right now, do whatever's necessary to win. By any means necessary. Just do it's the cold open all over again. Do whatever I have to do just to win. Because winning is the ultimate reality for them. There's no higher principles. There's no greater good. It's having power, punishing the people that work against you, and rewarding those that help you get to where you need to be. And when you think about the incompetence of this ticket, the utter failure of Mr. Walz as a military member, the utter failure of his time in the Congress, the utter failure he's had as governor. Minnesota is not economically in a good spot, and he has rubber stamped every single wacko leftist idea that's come down. He wants boys in your daughter's locker room. He wants that. He wants to punish the people that have been speaking out against his military term. He wants to see more of this kind of government control exercise, just like Kamala Harris does. And friends, I cannot let you tonight think that this vote is inconsequential. There is a chasm between the pro-American viewpoint of the Donald Trump ticket and the anti-American viewpoint of the Harris-Walz ticket. It's not even close. When we come back, we're going to talk movies. The Kendrick brothers join me for The Forge. Stay with us.
From New York, it's That Kevin Show.
See, I knew it.
Come on, Kev. What's a few classified documents between friends?
I told you all the time. I knew it. I knew he had some too.
Here he is. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, very glad to have you with us. That Kevin Show, oddly enough titled. We couldn't come up with anything better than that. But I am always glad here on the weekend to engage in great conversation that goes way off the front page. And in theaters this week, you have a brand new film offering that is just tearing it up everywhere it goes. It dips into a narrative universe that's already been created by my next guests, but I am very glad and very honored to have them back with us. This is the first time that they've been with us since That Kevin Show has been That Kevin Show. And I am honored to welcome Alex and Stephen Kendrick, movie makers. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Kevin. It's always good to talk to you, brother.
I prefer the air-conditioned studio to the hot on-location sets of mid-Georgia. So anytime you guys want to do this, I'm down for it. Guys, I've talked to you since I think some of your very first films have come out, and I know that each one kind of has its own, not just great story that's been crafted and then shot on film. And I really credit you guys a lot with bringing important narrative and important filmmaking to the faith space after so many generations of people kind of making corny stuff that was a little bit cringeworthy, that maybe your church would show it on a Sunday night if you still had a Sunday night service. Your stuff has always been top shelf. So I appreciate your consistency, but each one has also been a tremendous success in terms of the audience that it reaches and the story that it tells and the hearts that it touches. And a few years ago, you had this little film called War Room that just electrified people. And you've gone back to what my son would say, that cinematic universe, for your newest one called The Forge. And it's getting great response. Talk to me about why this movie at this time.
Well, we were praying, Stephen and I were praying, asking God the direction to go. He put on our hearts discipleship. And it's interesting that when I was putting together the initial pieces of story and script, Stephen came to me and he said, why couldn't this happen in the same world as War Room? And so when you go see The Forge, you're going to see characters from War Room. So War Room focused on the power of prayer, strategic prayer, and this one focuses on mentoring and discipleship. And discipleship, just to clarify some things, it is not just believing in Jesus, which is the first step. It is following him with your life. And Jesus himself said something very stark and confrontational. He said, if anyone wants to be my disciple, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. That means he wants devotion to him. And if there's anything standing in the way, it would be better that we die to it. That's what a cross is for. And so this movie walks through the path of Isaiah, 19-year-old, doesn't have his father in his life, working out some resentment, but he's got a praying mother, and a group of women are praying for him. And then we see how a group of established, successful men in a group called The Forge, where they disciple and keep each other accountable, reach out to Isaiah and pull him in and begin pouring into him. And we see all the hurdles and pitfalls of Isaiah's journey. But by the end of the movie, it's incredible to watch the audience's reaction when they say, I want that to happen to me or my son or my daughter, or I need to be pouring into someone discipling them like this. So we're so grateful for the response.
Well, as a dad who's just doing nothing but getting older, this is the kind of stuff that keeps us up at night, right? I mean, we yearn for our kids to not just know Jesus, but to know Jesus. And I'm grateful. I mean, not everybody in every corner of the universe can say this, but I'm grateful to have a pastor who regularly says from our pulpit, the purpose of our local congregation is to do three things: worship Jesus, sing songs to and about him, teach the word verse by verse, and to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's a holistic approach. You can't do one without the other. You can't become a disciple and not know the word. And you can't really understand the word unless you accept the authority of Jesus as the as the God of that word. So this is encouraging. Let me ask you, you've released a fun soundtrack to go along with this film as well, and I saw that hit my iTunes just a couple of days ago. Some big artists have contributed to this. Yeah,
we had Lecrae, we had
Tasha Cobbs, Leonard,
Aaron Cole,
Holvey, CeCe Winans.
We combined artists that they give you the vibe of Isaiah's journey, because it starts off with some of the more rap kind of songs. You've got this 19-year-old young black man whose dad has abandoned him. He's got no job, no direction. And like so many young people, he's hooked on video games and he's immature, but he needs to be called up. But because he has a praying mother, you see this older, wiser, successful businessman reach out to him, not only hire him and teach him how to set his alarm, get up, show up at work and do his job, but he teaches him the why behind his own life. And out of his own brokenness and story, how not only Christ changed his life, but he had somebody mentor and disciple him to help him deal with his own issues and wounds. And he rapidly grew. So now he's passing that on to Isaiah's life. And the songs connect with Isaiah's journey. And the last song in the closing credits, That's My King by CeCe Winans. It's a very powerful worship song that we actually sing it in our church as well. But we love when the body of Christ can rally around something together, focusing on what we have in common, our love for Jesus, our love for discipleship, our love for the next generation. It takes center stage in this movie. And the people that are watching it, they're moved emotionally. They're laughing. There's a lot of funny scenes in the movie. We bring back Miss Clara, who's funny and feisty, from War Room. So you see the power of prayer, but you also see what it looks like to say, follow me as I follow Christ. I'm not just going to preach at you from a distance. I'm going to invite you into my home, my work context, my world. And as I'm learning how to walk with God, I'm going to be sharing with you the things I'm learning. I'm going to be modeling what I'm teaching. And that's what Jesus did. He didn't just say, follow my teaching. He told his disciples, come follow me and hang out with me. So they didn't just hear him teach, about prayer. They're seeing him pray. And that's one of the things we think this generation desperately needs. They are digitally connected, relationally disconnected, and they can watch a cool sermon on YouTube, but they've got hurts that need comforting. They've got questions that are leading them to deconstruction that they need answering by somebody who loves them. And the church has to step into the void and engage in relationships, and then lead them, not only disciple them to Christ, but disciple them to maturity from that point.
That is Stephen and Alex Kendrick, and the new film is called The Forge, and it opened on the 23rd, and I hope that you will make time to see it. I know that it's being well received by audiences up and down the country, and you're going to want to take a friend or two that, maybe you've been talking to about what it means to live a life that has purpose. This would be a great film for you to sit through with them and then to have a slice of pizza after and say, what'd you think of that? But go and see it, The Forge. We're going to continue on the other side of this break from Times Square. I'm Kevin McCullough. It's That Kevin Show.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough. It's That Kevin Show. All things related, thatkevinshow.com. All social media, That Kevin Show. I didn't dare put the word McCullough in anything. I didn't think you could spell it. I didn't want to try to force you to. So That Kevin Show is what it is. My guests are Alex and Stephen Kendrick. Their new film called The Forge is out, and I want you to go and experience it, but not just for the purpose of being entertained. I want you to ask some deeper questions. And guys, I want to come back to this. Discipleship looks different in our lives at different stages, but it always has some of the same ingredients. After I was a young adult and had been serving in public ministry for a while, I had been married, had a first son. My life was racked by some real devastating circumstances. And I feel very grateful that there were about 7 fairly older men than me that came and not literally physically, but you could kind of feel it spiritually, stood around me and said, we're not letting you slip during this stage of life. We are going to challenge you. We are going to confront you. We are going to hold on to you, and we're not going to let you go. And I look back on the season of growth that all of that pain brought with it, but also all of the mentoring and all of the wisdom and all of the pouring into me that those 7 different men, none of whom knew that the others were doing this. Like, it was all just individually. They said, we're hanging on to you. But that's in essence what discipleship is, isn't it, guys? It is intentionally pouring into that life and saying, no, don't go anywhere. It's okay. We got you. You're here. We're going to do this together.
That is exactly right. And it's why we called the movie The Forge, because an actual forge puts heat and pressure on an item as it's formed for its best use, whether it's a sword, a knife, an arrow, a piece of equipment. And so spiritually, there are some parallels there. When we go through hardship, when we're stretched, pressured, that heat and pressure of life can make us either grow or faint and give up. And so discipleship calls out the part of us that doesn't need to stay, doesn't need to continue or flourish, and lifts up the part of us that honors the Lord, that is more about character and faith and honorable qualities. And so that's what discipleship does. As we grow deeper with Jesus, follow him with our whole heart, it moves things out of the way that would diminish our devotion to the Lord. So, for example, in the movie The Forge, we see the man doing the discipleship talk about how he was addicted to golf, played 3, 4, 5 times a week. And the Lord said, if you truly want to chase me, move that out of the way. It is not because golf is evil, but he gave such priority to something that was less important than the Lord. And so in a way to honor the Lord, he started playing a few times a year, and he moved it out of the way, spent more time with the Lord chasing him. And it's interesting, when we've shown the pre-screenings, how many people have been moved by that. They were like, man, I got something in my life I need to get out of the way. So it's not necessarily about just get evil out. It's about putting what is truly best as the priority. And that, of course, that's the Lord. And so part of discipleship is getting rid of what is not as helpful, not as good, and raising the priority of what is best.
Well, and the truth is, any of us can start on this journey at any point in time. Stu Epperson, who was the co-founder of Salem Communications back when they were a very small company and eventually became a media giant, but before he passed away, last several years of his life, he wholly dedicated his focus to helping some inner city kids that he got to know there in the Carolinas, and personally mentoring them and saying, you know, God has a plan for your life. And this is the joy of being able to pass that on. I want to highlight a couple of resources. You've got a couple of books coming along as well. Talk to me about what they are and how they kind of complement what The Forge is about.
So we just completed a book we've been wanting ourselves. It's called Devoted to Jesus. For anyone who has never been discipled, or they have never discipled anybody else, and they would love a tool to be able to grab and jot and jump right in. When you see The Forge in theaters, you're either going to be asking, who do I need to get to disciple me, or who do I need to pour into? And so this is 52 short chapters that can be read right before you meet or during your meetings together.
Alex and Stephen, great to see you. It seems like the more hair I lose, the whiter your beards get. So we'll figure it all out in glory someday. But thanks for coming on by.
Good to see you, Kevin.
You got it. Kevin McCullough from Times Square. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
All right, Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us from Times Square, per usual. Anything you want to find from the broadcast, thatkevinshow.com. Check that out. Patrice Onwuka is back with us from the Independent Women's Forum, and she holds down a very important post there. She's the director for the Center for Economic Opportunity. And since Kamala Harris talked about it at her campaign rally, well, kind of a rally, I think there were like 200 people there in North Carolina. There were more press than people. But when she unveiled her first policy speech, which was her economic plan, I've been dying to speak to Patrice because she follows this stuff really carefully. Hello, lady. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to see you.
First opportunity out of the chute, you have to set policy and say, this is my vision and this is what I'm going to do. And she's going to go after big grocery. That was a head scratcher for me.
I think it was a head scratcher for all of us because she positioned herself as being moderate, but this was farther to the left than pretty much Bernie Sanders. I mean, he probably agreed with a lot of what she had in there, but even further than Elizabeth Warren. What Kamala Harris is going after is a fictitious ghost in price gouging by grocers and food producers. And she thinks that it's great for headlines and it's an easy tagline. But in fact, I think it would backfire on a lot of households, particularly those who are in low-income communities that frankly suffer with access to grocery stores and food to begin with. And everyone else, I think we can look forward to higher prices, shortages, and less variety of the things we like to buy.
Well, and then she went on to say, I'm going to give everyone $25,000 to buy their first home. I saw that was like a $2 trillion deficit hole just blowing right through the budget for the federal government. The truth is, Patrice, to approach either one of these solutions in that manner, and I'm not joking now, I think it is a fundamentally unserious proposal. I mean, just the lack of acknowledgement in terms of the impact that energy has on the price of groceries when you're trying to ban fracking and end fossil fuels, but yet you need fossil fuels for irrigation, production, transportation, and refrigeration of groceries. Like, there's a direct corresponding element there, and there was no acknowledgement of that and what could be done about it.
Well, let's think about what viewpoint she's coming from. It's both academic in that government can manipulate markets. The government bureaucrats are smart enough. All you need are the smart people to be able to determine what the perfect price level is, and then nationalize that price level, and things are going to be great. But we live in the real world where economics and economic realities change, particularly when government intervenes in the market. When that happens, consumers and producers change their behavior. So, for example, if the government says you can only charge $2 for a gallon of milk, well, the milk producers have seen their, as you talked about, their transportation costs increase, the cost to produce the plastic bottles that the milk goes into, the labor cost that it takes to, run the machines that milk the cows, the fixed costs that are associated with, just having that machinery in place. So all of these costs are going up for the people who are producing, and the government says, but you can't charge more to make a profit or even to break even. Well, what are they going to do? They're either going to try, they can't pass that cost on to consumers in the long term, or so they're going to cut supply. And maybe they won't be making chocolate milk and regular white milk. And eventually they'll cut supply of the white milk that they're producing, and they'll go out of business. That's the economic reality. That's not just textbook economics. It's also real world experience that we've seen in other countries that failed when they tried to implement these policies. But I think you're seeing someone who's worked their entire life in government and relied on the very smart people from academia to say, well, if we just do it a little bit better than Venezuela or the Soviet Union, we can get it right. No, they will get it wrong, and the impacts will be devastating.
Well, and I want to point out that the impact is where you started this conversation, on the ones that need the relief the most, the ones that have harder access to basic groceries and so forth. And I know that in some areas, including our inner cities and in our poorest rural areas, that it becomes much more exponentially expensive for those smaller stores to even stay in business. They have to pass that cost on to the communities that they live in. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're draining. Everything is going in the wrong direction. Like all the resources, all the help, all the prosperity is moving away from the people that you're trying to help. Yeah.
I mean, first off, inflation hurts low-income households on fixed budgets, a lot of minority households as well, because they're spending disproportionately more. Grocers saying that you're going after price gouging. They're operating on margins that are 1% to 3% at best.
Right, on a good year.
Exactly. But it's about 1% right now. Where are they going to find how are they going to cut down their prices to be able to make some margin, if anything at all? And this is where a lot of the other policies come into play, whether you're talking about increased minimum wages in a lot of cities. That's a big cost for grocers, and all of the other increased costs that I talked about when it comes to now all of a sudden you truly do have food deserts. And not just that you can't get access to fresh cabbage and groceries in a lot of poorer neighborhoods, and I visited some recently. I was just astonished. But now you'll see their entire grocery store disappear with these as well. So where do these people eat? How do they find sustenance when that happens?
Well, I think in Kamala's world, it's by going to the government and holding out your hand and asking them for more pleas. And that is the quickest way to personal destruction. In a free market, to be dependent upon government is the worst scenario that you can find yourself in. And Ronald Reagan had it right. The scariest words we should ever hear are, "Hello, I'm from the government and I'm here to help." It's just, it's not usually the way it's done. Patrice, we're going to talk to you again before the elections here. I appreciate what you're doing, staying diligent on top of these issues and helping explain them to my people.
Terrific. Thank you for having me. It's
got
important. And there'll be plenty more of this to talk about, I'm sure.
Follow Patrice over at IWF.org and all the good work of the Independent Women's Forum you can find there as well. Kevin McCullough coming right back from New York. Stay here.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him from as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee. The newest chapter of The Chosen coming to TV near you, Amenda Jenkins. And Anike and Porshe Love back in the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, a man who wonders if he's truly the only person in America not down with Travis Kelce's new look. Here's the...
Well, thanks, Dave, but it really is true. Like, I watched some of the game on Thursday, and he was just all Ron Jeremy to me. Like, every time the camera cut to him, I'm like, this is not what he wants to look like. Is this what he wants? I asked the bride, is this what he wants to look like? Does Taylor like this? Really? Yeesh, yikes. Okay, forget that. Let's get to the news. Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. This week, in response to blatant bias being demonstrated by Alexa as to the presidential race of 2024, South Carolina U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham announced he was putting Amazon on notice. He implied that Jeff Bezos and other executive team members may be required to come to hearings before the Senate. Assignment Desk Weekend has learned that once Alexa overheard the senator's plan, she knifed him in his sleep. Or that's the latest rumor that Alexa is now passing on. Other elected officials are equally disturbed by new revelations of intended election interference this week. To be specific, Governor Tim Walz is now under fire for how mysteriously thousands of non-U.S. citizens made it onto the voter rolls in Minnesota. Assignment Desk Weekend has looked into this, and we are learning that his main explanation thus far has been, what even is a citizen? It's been 48 days since Kamala Harris has been running for president. It only seemed longer, and has yet to grant a formal press conference. But Assignment Desk Weekend would like to remind you that there are only 60 days left until Donald Trump throttles her, and no one will care past that point in time. So harvest those ballots, get Granny to the polls, because we can't deal with this anymore. In sports, the national Taylor Swift football season has kicked off this weekend. The Eras Tour singer was in attendance at the opening game in Kansas City this past Thursday as the Chiefs barely beat the Baltimore Ravens by a single inch. In a noticeable departure from last season, Brittany Holmes, the wife of the Chiefs quarterback, did not sit in the oversized suite labeled with a plaque on the front that just said TV. Not sure if she thought it was for media or what, but for Swift fans, you know TV. Sadly, it appears that the fast friendship born out last year may be nearing its natural end, which is frightening for the bride of Patrick Mahomes, because it all but assures that at least 3 songs dedicated to her will appear on the next Taylor Swift original record. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
Nagasaki, the heat death of the universe. These are some of the deadliest days in history. But none of them compare to the most deadliest day. January 6, 2021. Coming soon in the most epic movie event since Robot Jocks, Left Behind, or maybe even Son of the Mask. The Babylon Bee investigates the darkest day in the history of democracy.
Where were you on January 6th?
In January?
I don't remember.
Storming the Capitol, baby. No.
Scary stuff like this happened.
Okay.
So on a scale of 9 to 10, how terrifying was what you just witnessed?
3? I don't know.
We go on location. We bring you 100% true facts.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was murdered over 7 times.
We ask the tough questions.
Is it true that you have a Jewish space laser? This is incredibly boring. Could you explain it to me using Marvel characters?
We even go face to face with the scariest criminals you'll ever meet.
Are you the dangerous insurrection man?
Who's asking?
We're in. Into the lair of darkness I go. Darkness because he's a Republican, not because he's, never mind. Shame! Shame!
This fall, the only way you can save democracy is by becoming a member of the Babylon Bee. So you can see January 6th, the most deadliest day.
Where were you on January 6th?
I was in that mob that was going into the Capitol.
Honey, someone's going to the house. Someone's going to the house. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to call the cops.
We're recording you.
No. It's okay. I'm just your neighbor. Coming by to say howdy.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, we're not used to people stopping by to say howdy without assaulting us first, robbing us, or defecating on our lawn.
Sometimes all 3.
The trifecta. We're from Los Angeles.
Just moved to Texas.
I figured.
Oh, the California plates?
Oh, yeah, and the masks. Inside your own house, no one else around. 2022.
We just want to be extra safe.
We feel naked without masks.
We'll probably wear them for the rest of our lives.
We'll be buried in them.
Okay. Well, you seem like a lovely couple. Like I said, I just wanted to drop by and welcome you to the neighborhood.
Why? Do you want something?
Oh, no. I think he's being friendly. People around here are friendly, like we've seen in the movies, right?
I thought that was just make-believe, like superheroes or families that go to church.
No, that's a myth. This is real life.
So, I live in that house over yonder. The name's Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. I'm Tiffany, she, her.
And I'm Steve, he, him.
What are your pronouns?
Well, I don't believe in pronouns. I think they're reductive. In fact, just your asking about it is a microaggression.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay. I'm just messing with you. I like all pronouns. My favorite is you.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Exactly. So, if you need anything, just holler. My wife and I'd be happy to help.
Baby, he has a gun.
I'm calling the cops.
I'm recording you.
No.
Recording
It's okay. It's okay. It's just my sidearm. Everybody here has a gun.
Sorry. We don't really like guns. There's a lot of crime where we're from.
I understand. There's not a lot of crime here.
Why?
Because everybody here has a gun.
I don't get it.
It doesn't add up at all.
You'll get used to it.
But what if I don't want to get used to it? Guns? People walking up to your driveway without masks and without pronouns? I don't think I can live like this.
Well, if it makes you feel more at home, We just recently replaced a lot of our electrical grid with unreliable wind power.
Baby.
It helps. But honestly, I just don't think I can do this. Where's the police sirens? Where's the helicopters overhead? Where's the needles in this street? I just can't live like this. It's so hot. And the bugs are so big.
But we just sing so much on the bungalow.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show. People often try to ask me what That Kevin Show is like. And I said, if you smashed Letterman into Gutfeld and pushed it into SNL, maybe? I don't know. We try. We have some fun. Although I don't have to write very many parody sketch pieces these days because I just take out the Kamala real video and play it on the show, and everyone laughs all on their own. Anyway, that preceding editorial, not the viewpoint of my guests, any of them that appear on the show, unless they voluntarily say that they are. But I'm so glad to welcome back my next one. She is one of the founders. She is one of the guiding lights. She is one of the maybe most influential people in all of the world, called The Chosen, because she's married to the guy that thought it all up. Amenda Jenkins, welcome back.
Thank you. That intro took a number of turns.
Didn't it though?
Holding on.
You were like white knuckling it all the way through. Like, where's he going with this?
What are we doing here? All right, let's do this.
Anyway, good to have you back.
Thank you.
Season 4. Okay, so when it came out in theaters, my 3 kids, who have now all started tracking very closely with it, couldn't wait for each of the next chapters to get released. And then Dallas dropped the big bomb that, it's not going to be streaming for a little while. And so there was the wait, and Dad, has he said anything yet, and everything else. And then finally it came out streaming. But season 4, while it is some of the best storytelling and continues to be some of the best television that's ever been created, bar none, you can put it up against anything that people put in the discussion of great TV, and The Chosen is right there. But it's also starting to get to the really serious part. And I'm curious, Amanda, as you're looking at the scripts, I know season 5 is either in production or you just wrapped, but what are we going to anticipate in the next chapter of this 7-chapter book?
I mean, I think it's what everybody's dreading. It has been an interesting journey, even for us, being on the ground floor of creating it. We're all dreading it. I mean, we're all, the actors are dreading it. The crew is dreading it. I think it's going to be an emotional next couple of years for us on set. We did just wrap season 5. And I can't, I don't get to say what that covers, but we're right there.
Well, we know where season 4 ended.
Right.
And there's not a lot of room to go anywhere.
Exactly.
So you just go forward is what we're expecting.
Everyone knows what we're walking into. And I think the difference with the show that the show is making is that we're no longer just flipping pages of the story and going through the highlights. We're really getting to know these people. And it's changed the way I've done research for Bible studies. When I come across the story of a martyrdom of one of the guys, I've heard these stories my whole life. All of a sudden, I'm pausing and I'm crying and I'm envisioning it very differently. And so obviously the crucifixion is going to be that times 10 for everybody involved. And that's what there is to expect. I mean, it's exactly what you might think. Although I will say some really cool depictions of those things along the way that you'll have to wait for. But yeah, sad nonetheless.
That's one of the things that it's been noted for, is not just the great writing and the great storytelling, but the cinematography and the effects, and everything that's been done has been done in such a timeless effect on the screen, and it really has looked phenomenal. The reason you come to see us is because you don't really do that much on camera or anything like that. You're involved in a lot of the ancillary vision for what The Chosen can be. And you've got a new Bible study out. I think it's titled God's Goodness for The Chosen, an interactive Bible study for season 4. What can people expect from that?
We are tracking along with the seasons thematically as we do our Bible studies that kind of coincide. So we're not studying the show in our Bible studies because it's a show, and we're studying the scripture, but the themes are kicked off by each season. And so in this one, for anyone who's seen it, it's all about suffering and Christ's presence in that suffering, but suffering nonetheless. And so interestingly, not coincidentally, my co-writer and I were both in real seasons of suffering, and so it poured out of us where we were just authentically. But what we found was, I think the operating title for this Bible study was a little bit was this Suffering for the Chosen, which I don't think would be a great seller. But it also isn't where we ultimately landed. It was that we're suffering, but when we spend time with the Lord, his goodness begins to eclipse that suffering and how he's good in spite of it. And of course, that's what we're going to see on the cross. There's no greater example of suffering that is eclipsed by the goodness of the Lord inside of that suffering. So that's what the Bible study is about, and we just went into it personally to learn because we just couldn't see through at that point. And what I learned has been such a comfort to me. I feel like I have done this Bible study before offering it to everybody else.
Well, I think that, and people have different motives for doing what they do, and I don't judge the motives. I look at the fruit and try to say, hey, what was produced by that? But if you study any amount of scripture at all, suffering is a consistent theme throughout the entirety of the biblical narrative. And you're right. There's not, and for those of you that are watching and listening, and you know that I'm a Christian, but this isn't per se a Christian show, just deal with this for a second, because more than likely, some of you are in fact suffering as well. And suffering actually serves purpose. It actually serves to refine and to develop and to define us in our relationship or our lack of relationship with that God. Maybe speak to that for a second, Amanda. How has suffering, in your own experience, in your own walk, how has it changed the fiber of who you are in terms of how you see yourself before God?
Well, it's interesting because I think if I'm being honest, I'm not sure that happy times ever lead me back to God. And that's just sad but true. I think when things are going well, we don't actually consider the heavier things. We don't consider our own lack. We don't consider our own inability to control everything. And so to me, suffering is the thing that drives me to God. And so I wish it was a different way. I think that's probably pretty universally true, that abundance doesn't necessarily lead us to seeing our spiritual need. And so I've been driven to my knees in this last season. I've had a sick kid, chronically sick kid. We cannot figure it out, and we cannot get her to maintain a comfortable lifestyle for any length of time. And so she's suffering, so I'm suffering. And what God has shown me in it is that not only is he present in it, that he wants to use it, but it is an upside down type of logic, that it is the thing that is showing me who he is more than letting the good times roll, to be honest, that he's kind, that he's a comforter, that he's long suffering, that he's patient with me, that I am in need, that I do have need that only he can meet, that only he can meet in my daughter's life. And so, it utterly transforms you to show you your own lack and your need, and then where really the only place to go to meet those needs.
That's well said. The name of the Bible study is God's Goodness for the Chosen, an interactive Bible study for season 4 of the Chosen TV series. We're speaking with Amanda Jenkins, who is maybe the most important person in the entire Chosen operation. And we're honored to have her with us. It's Kevin McCullough coming back from Times Square. Don't go away.
All I want is to see your kingdom come.
I want that for you too. Lazarus is very sick. This isn't the sickness that leads to death.
Where is the other purse? What are you talking about?
Numbers don't just change just because I've directed my attention elsewhere. I and the Father are one.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Kevin McCullough.
I'm back. Final few minutes with Amenda Jenkins of The Chosen. Of course, the wife of Dallas Jenkins, the daughter-in-law of Jerry Jenkins. Just those two associations alone, Amanda, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot just to take in right there in the writing, in the TV and movie direction alone. But somehow you've held up, and the Lord is sustaining you. And as we were talking in the last segment, sometimes through tough seasons. I was just contemplating the correlation to season 4. I was kind of rerunning it in my head as you were talking. And one of the things I think that Jonathan Rumi does really good in trying to define the character of Jesus for us better on screen is that it would be funny if it wasn't so sad, but there's almost this element of Jesus in this time where he's just so frustrated with the knuckleheads that he's been trying to get through to for the last 2 years, and that they don't understand what they don't know. And even after he raises Lazarus from the dead, there's that scene of he and Lazarus sitting alone talking, and even Lazarus doesn't get it. Like there's just this there's this big hurt in his heart for all the crud that they are about to go through, and Jesus sees it and knows it and wants to do everything he can to help prepare them for it. He can't, other than just to tell them what he tells them. But in life, a lot of times, Amanda, we're kind of like those knuckleheads. No, I mean, sometimes the suffering comes from things that are outside of us, but sometimes we create our own suffering in really questionable choices or bad decisions. And yet the kind of faithfulness of who Jesus is that he's still there. No matter how frustrated it may be, he's still loving us. He's still hoping for us. He's still pulling for us. He's still comforting us in that process. And I thought that was well expressed in the season 4 as it was shown in The Chosen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the thing that makes the show really special and why it's been such an honor to be a part of is that it puts eyeballs to these stories of Jesus. It puts the right emphasis on the correct syllables so that as we're reading the black and white text of scripture, we start to go, oh, okay, I'm understanding better. I'm making a heart connection with what those words actually mean. And the heart connection is always that Jesus identifies with our suffering.
Yeah.
Jesus identifies us with us as people. He was God, but he was also fully human. And so he experienced all those things that we experience, including our hardest things. And I do think we are knuckleheads. I'm amazed
I know I am.
my own inability to learn a lesson and hold it. And so I've become very thankful for scriptures that talk about how God holds us, that it's actually not, we catch and release. And as I am learning slowly but surely over time, he's super faithful to remain present in my process. But we are slow. And I do think that's what this season shows is how alone he was in that, where he actually didn't receive much comfort at all from any of the people around him because they were too hard-headed to understand. And some of their hard-headedness came from their own desire to not hear. And I think there are times in my own life where I just don't want to hear an answer that isn't the one I would have chosen. Yeah. And so I think what we're seeing is so beautifully portrayed in the show, and what is in this Bible study that we just had the privilege of being able to write and experience on our own, is that our suffering and slowness is met with a love we do not comprehend. Mm-hmm. And so I lose my understanding of the lessons in suffering as fast as I lose the vastness of his love. And so I think the show does a really good job of being a constant reminder of that. I'm in it, I'm with you, and I love you, and I understand things you don't understand about what's coming. And that's true for us in our own circumstances too. And so that's what the Bible study really sought to focus in on and just really help us to understand his nature alongside all the things that we're experiencing here. The name of the study is God's Goodness for the Chosen, an interactive Bible study, season 4. In an optimum way, Amanda, how should people use this? Should they rewatch and study corollarily? Like how does it interact with the content of season 4? In the beginning of every single lesson, we enter in with an excerpt from the show, a script excerpt, and then we leave it with a script excerpt. So we are really focusing on how the themes show up in each episode. So you absolutely can go watch an episode and then sit down and kind of take your own heart apart, in it and go, how am I actually interacting with this? And the
Better
thing I love
for
about
individuals or for groups, ideally.
I think it's really good for individuals. It can be used as both. It's a little dense, and there's a little bit of personal reflection that happens. So that would need to be ahead of time, but there's group discussion, questions throughout the book as well.
The Chosen Season 4 has its own interactive Bible study called God's Goodness for the Chosen. Amenda Jenkins, its co-writer. Thank you for being with us tonight. As always, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kevin McCullough coming back from Times Square when we continue.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
All right, thank you for being here. And again, welcome to the weekend. So glad to have you with us. Friends, over the last few weeks, I introduced a brand new cause to you. You'd never heard about it before from this microphone. And we have worked diligently over the past few weeks to try to make a difference. But now is crunch time. The goal was 600 children to be fed for the coming year that are currently starving. And my friends with Food for the Poor are in a position to be able to provide all the food that they need for 2 meals a day for the coming year per child for only $80. And I challenge you, look at your grocery bill, try to feed your own kid for a month on $80, and you'll have a hard time doing that. Food for the Poor is actually going all the way to feeding a child for a full year on that same amount of money. But there's even better news, because right now we have someone who will match every penny you give bite for bite with additional food. So for the 600 children that we're trying to reach, we have a partner coming in saying they'll reach half of that if we can just supply the gifts. So what I need you to do, friend, is not put it off anymore. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673, or go to instagood.org. Insta, like instant, good, G-O-O-D, instagood.org. It's very important that you do this, because the goal is to get all 600 kids fed by the end of September, meaning we have 1 month, less than 1 month to get this wrapped up. We've already lost a week of this final month, and we are at 83 of the 600 children fed, which is twofold. One, it's a blessing, because those 83 children will now get 700 meals over the next year. And these are children that have distended bellies. They have orange colored hair. This is many of these children are in the country of Haiti, where I adopted my oldest son from and brought him to the States. And he is no longer a burden on anybody. We have fed him. He has grown. He has done well. But the children that we are reaching out to are ones that will go sometimes up to 72 hours in between getting anything resembling a meal. So your $80 gift per child right now is going to take one of those children that are on this list of 600 most critical children and begin giving them meals for the next year that they wouldn't get otherwise, and in fact may not even survive the year. But friends, I am very, very burdened. We are only 83 children towards that goal, and we have 517 to still reach. And if there were a number of us that could just do 3 children tonight, that's a $240 one-time gift, or $80 a month for the next year. You could rescue a child every month. But whatever you're able to do, if there were 500 of us tonight that just said, we'll take 1 child each. Friends, we don't need to do a ton, but we need to do a little bit. A lot of us need to do a little bit just so that we can get all of these children fed. Now, if you call tonight at 855-349-4673, every penny you contribute will be matched. So if you can give a gift tonight of, $500 and feed 4 of these, no, that's 320, 5 kids, 6 kids would be 480. That will be matched. Someone else will give 480. Whatever you can do tonight, it's going to make a difference. But friends, we are running out of time. The end of September will be here before, in the blink of an eye. And that's when this opportunity will come to an end. And I don't want to leave any of them behind. 83 children's lives have been saved, will be rescued. They will be fed this next year because of those of you that have already jumped in. But if you've been thinking about it and if you've been saying, I need to do something about this, and you've just been putting it off, friends, don't put it off any longer. Tonight's the night. We must feed as many of these children as we can for the coming year. If we don't do it, it won't happen. If we don't reach them, no one will. These are the forgotten children of Central and South America. And Food for the Poor is at work in Haiti, in places like Jamaica, in the slums, in places like Guatemala, El Salvador, those countries that have had the worst economic conditions, famines, hurricanes. They've had destruction of crops. Food for the Poor is on the ground. Food for the Poor also works exclusively through pastors on the ground. They don't work through the government offices. They don't work through cartels or anything else like that. They work with the pastors who are already involved in these children's lives, ministering to these kids on some level already. So the McCullough family has been giving to Food for the Poor for years. I'm asking you to join us. I'm asking you to take a step of courage. And if you could give a gift of $240 tonight, that would take care of 3 children that you're providing the food for. But because of the matching gift, you're actually going to be providing 6 children the help that they need. We need your help. It cannot be said any other way, and it cannot be done any other way. The only way through the hardest part is to go through it, and we need your help. That's all I can say. 855-349-4673, instagood.org. Instagood. Insta like instant, good, G-O-O-D, instagood.org, or 855-349-4673. I want to tell you a personal story about my time with Food for the Poor. They have been working in Central and South America for a while, and a few years ago they asked me to go see some of the work that needed to be done. And we flew into Port-au-Prince, and we got settled in where we were staying, and the people from Food for the Poor came and got us, and we were in a rickety van, and we got out of the city, and we went to an area that was quite a ways outside of the city of Port-au-Prince. And when we got to where we were going, there was a long road, and we still had to walk close to 2 more miles to get into the village where the village was. When we got there, this pastor was trying to teach a classroom of kids, and outside the school was this dirty, dirty watering hole that animals were using and everything else, as you can imagine. And I saw children drinking from there. That year, we did a campaign to help feed and bring water to those children. And the next year, after we got it installed, I went back. I got a chance to go back. I saw children that had been almost half the size the year previous that had grown already. Friends, I wouldn't ask you to do this if I wasn't willing to do it myself, and I am. So please help us. 855-349-4673 or instagood.org.
That Kevin.